Welcome to Minding My Money. I'm your host, Shawnee, and this is where the journey to financial freedom is real, raw, and a little bit fun. I'm sharing my wins, my lessons, and everything in between, $1 at a time. Now, before we jump in, let me say this. This ain't financial advice, just financial realness. Welcome to Volume 2, Hustle Mode, the season where dreams get heavy, but we carry them anyway. Today's episode is inspired by Sweet Dreams by Beyonce, because sometimes your dream is the only thing keeping you going when exhaustion tries to make you quit, even when that same dream feels sweet one minute and like a beautiful nightmare the next. This one's for anyone who's ever chased a dream while tired, stretched in, or barely hanging on. Holding on to a dream when you're exhausted is its own kind of courage, right? This episode is about wanting a better life, navigating school and work, surviving pressure, burnout, racism, and doubt, and still believing in the dream even when it feels impossible. Hustle mode isn't cute, it isn't glamorous, but guess what? It's real and it's the part of the journey people don't talk about enough. In grade school, they used to ask us, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" Me? Well, I always said nurse, and I kind of teeter-tottered between that and being a math teacher, but nurse was always top of the list because it felt natural, familiar, like it was destiny because there are so many nurses in my family. But what nobody told me was that nursing school would demand everything: my time, my mind, my confidence, my energy, my patience, and my spirit. It stretched me in ways I wasn't prepared for. There were days I felt tired, down to my bones. Days where the dream felt impossible. As much as it felt like I chose nursing, some days nursing chose balance. And not in a joke type of way, but in the this process is going to break you down and rebuild you kind of way. See, nursing, it wasn't gentle, it wasn't easy. It constantly tested me. When I started my undergraduate program, my mom made me a promise. She was saying, as long as you're in school, you don't have to worry about working. So she carried me and she carried the dream. And sometimes it felt like she carried us both because she really did. Shout out to my mom. But reality hit hard. My first college, I wasn't getting accepted into the program. You see, what nobody explains is nursing is super competitive. Although it was advertised, this is a high in demand career field. They don't tell you that out of hundreds of applicants, maybe 30, 40, or 50 are chosen. So at my first college, I spent 2.5 years there and 2.5 years were gone. I had to transfer to a school in my home city because I was accepted into that nursing program. But that didn't come without some repercussions for me later on. You see, some credits didn't transfer. Classes I had already taken, I had to take them again. So I felt like I wasted time, money, and momentum, all of it gone. But at least I was accepted into a nursing program, right? I just had to start over just a little bit. So that meant pulling out additional student loans to fund my new school, and the new school was a private program. But I didn't let it discourage me because the dream for me was louder than the disappointment, so I kept going. Once I finally got accepted into nursing school, that's when the real fight started. Early mornings, late nights, leaving home at 6 a.m., coming home 7 p.m., or even later a lot of times, and just living off vending machine snacks and adrenaline. And being one of the few black students was tough. That's a whole different syllabus by itself. There are microaggressions, obvious biases, the need to be twice as good with half the grace, and the pressure to be perfect because mistakes weren't allowed. I learned quickly nursing school didn't just test your brain, it tested your spirit. The grading scale was so ruthless. So let me break it down. At my first college, a 70 was a C, an 80 was a B, a 90 was an A. At this new school, 76 was failing, and an A meant you had to have 97% or higher. That's more than what was required in high school. Nursing school to me was survival disguised as a school. I remember in my program, you could only, I think, fail one course, and it wasn't hard to fail. So get a 76 and you're failing, right? But there was this one course that I failed, and because I missed an assignment that I didn't know that didn't get turned in. And I didn't fail because I didn't know the material, but because life was lifing at that point. But I got back up because the dream wasn't done with me. And plus, I was nearing the end of my nursing program at this time. In nursing school, for me at least, there wasn't a lot of representation, but I do recall this black clinical instructor, and she gave me some really good advice that I'm gonna go ahead and let you know I never took that advice. She told me once I graduated, now keep in mind, I'm still trying to figure out if I'm going to graduate, but she told me once I graduated, never to ever pick up extra shifts on your main job, because what she was trying to get through to me was it'll burn you out and you'll start to hate the place that you work with as well as the people you work with. And I heard her, but I didn't listen. When I finally became a nurse, I was burnt out in exactly how she explained I would be. I was picking up all these extra shifts. I wasn't being recognized. I wasn't even being thanked. There were even some days it was so tough with working extra shifts just to have extra money that I don't even recall my drive home. And there also was one point where I was working full time and going to graduate school while trying to hold myself together on fumes. It just was so much, and I wish I would have listened to my mentor then. So let's go back to the nursing school part of it, undergraduate that is. When it came down to my last semester, we had to take this exit exam, and they called it a HESI, right? And you could have passed all of your classes, but if you don't pass this exit exam, you will not graduate, okay? And you also cannot sit before the boards. I was so exhausted at this point. I was so done with school. I wanted it to be over. I failed the HESI exam 3 times. The first time the power went out and it was messing with my nerves, but I kept going and I eventually passed it. And as a matter of fact, a lot of the people who passed the HESI, side note, a lot of them had the answers to the test if we want to keep it a buck. But anyway, a lot of people who passed the HESI, which is the exit exam the first time, they had difficulties passing the boards for nursing. I took the HESI 3 times and I never lost my spirit in all of that. Yes, I cried, but I never gave up. And when it came down to pass the boards, I passed it the first go round. So in theory, I saw it like the HESI just really prepared me to be licensed in the state in which I lived. And I guess I look at it this way. Some of the people who breezed through nursing school really didn't make it, because sometimes moving slowly isn't a setback, it's preparation. A dream delayed is not a dream denied. So meaning you are not behind when you are building. Slow progress is still progress, and moving forward is still forward. I had to learn for myself to celebrate small wins, one chapter at a time, one test pass at a time, one night shift survived at a time, and one bill paid at a time. And some of the best things in my life happened when I was still tired, still unsure, and still overwhelmed. But I still showed up. And eventually, the dream showed up for me too. Now, this podcast is about minding my money, so let's tie this back to money. Because chasing a dream didn't just drain my energy, it drained my wallet. Everybody said, don't work, focus on school. And that sounds cute until you realize focusing doesn't pay for gas. So instead of working, I took out more student loans. When I transferred schools, the price doubled for me. Credits didn't transfer, classes had to be retaken, and the loans, oh, they transferred just fine. Then I needed a new car just to get back and forth, but I couldn't afford one. I had no job and I had no money. I don't come from money. So I couldn't afford a car note on top of the fact that I already didn't have gas money and I couldn't keep up with the maintenance on the car I already had. So looking cute for me in college? Absolutely not. I looked tired, broke down, busted because I was. Nursing school books are super expensive, okay? And I would try to sell back those books and I would get pennies back. But I used that money for food and gas. And every refund check I received felt like income, but they really were loans with interest waiting on the other side. But in real time, you don't think about those things. You're thinking about how do I eat and survive today? By the time I crossed that stage, I had a degree in one hand and the bill for that degree in the other. Some dreams come with a price tag, but staying stuck costs even more. That broke version of me, she's the foundation of all of this. She walked so financially healed me could run. Now, I don't know if you know this, but there is a cost to chasing purpose because purpose ain't free. Purpose cost me sleep, peace, missed birthdays, all kind of balances and parts of myself I didn't know I'd lose. There were days I didn't know if the dream was still mine or if I was just running on autopilot. But every sacrifice was proof I believed in something bigger. In nursing school, I cried before, during, and after clinicals. Tears were basically part of my uniform, and those breakdowns taught me rest isn't optional. Asking for help isn't weak. Strength has limits and resilience has boundaries. And without these moments, I wouldn't be who I am today. When I sit and think about every job I've ever worked, from the sub shop to the daycare to unpaid clinical shifts in nursing schools, all of those didn't come with commas, but they came with lessons. Those early paychecks were small, but they were shaping something bigger in me. I wasn't out here handling money irresponsibly because I didn't have much money to handle. But every one of those jobs taught me something. It taught me first, humility equals learning to serve even when I was tired. Work discipline means showing up no matter what was going on in my personal life. And perspective is understanding that every season has purpose, even the broke ones. Those small paychecks built my hustle. They taught me how to grind before I ever knew the word budget, how to keep going when the money was funny, and how to stay rooted even when life felt unsteady. My struggle story isn't about what I didn't have, it's about what I learned while I was earning. See, it's all about those small beginnings and how they shape the way I chase money and that peace today. I want to give a shout out to my mom because my mom's support wasn't just financial, it was spiritual. She paid bills, prayed for me, and carried me through moments I didn't think I'd make it through. When someone invests in your dream like that, quitting stops being an option. After I finally graduated nursing school and passed my boards, I was so eager. I wanted a nursing job so bad, not just for the title, but for the income, and so I could finally leave my mom's house and be fully self-sufficient. But even though nursing was in high demand, Nobody really wanted a new graduate with no experience. I struggled for months. I was sending out applications, emails, I was praying, and nothing would happen. It took an old nursing instructor making a call as a favor for someone to finally give me a chance. One person believing in me changed everything. But let me be honest, when that first real paycheck hit, financial wisdom was not the first priority. I needed a car badly, and so paycheck number one went straight to a down payment for a brand new car. Check number two, I used to get an apartment because I just couldn't stay with my mom anymore. I had a new job, a new car, a new apartment, and guess what? Nothing, absolutely nothing saved. As a matter of fact, very limited in my checking account. And on top of all of that, I was still emotionally spending, keeping the promise kid me made. And the promise I made to myself was I'll never tell myself no if I want something. Not telling myself no definitely felt good in the moment, but it kept me stuck in that paycheck to paycheck cycle. About 5 years into my nursing career, around that time is when I met my love at the gym. Now, he wasn't my love right away, but he eventually turned into that. Meeting him was the start of things that shifted with me financially. Even if I didn't know it in the moment, I started meal prepping. I started slowing down with my spending. I started listening to my thoughts instead of my impulses. And I turned paydays from splurge days into reflection days. And somewhere in that gentle growth, I realized I wasn't hustling for money anymore. I wasn't working just to pay bills or chase temporary highs. I was hustling for peace, for balance, and for freedom. That was the beginning of a new version of me. The version who minds her money because she finally understands the cost of not doing so. Let's talk about when I was working bedside nursing. So, working bedside nursing, that was a whole different type of exhaustion for me. I was being overworked. We were always short staffed. We were underpaid, especially on night shift. And the emotional labor of caring for someone else while falling apart inside. That was tough. Night after night, I asked myself, is this even sustainable? Did I pick the right dream? I was so burnt out. I was so stressed in and trying to pour from an empty cup. I wasn't living life, I was surviving it. And because I was so drained, I started overcompensating with spending. Online shopping became my escape. Packages on the porch felt like tiny pockets of joy in a life that felt so heavy. But then, one day, I woke up and I realized something had changed. My sacrifices were starting to pay off. All those years at the bedside, they were building something. See, I had to pay my dues, and I climbed the ladder. Quietly and slowly, my life started to look differently. I could finally pay my bills without fear. I wasn't drowning anymore. I was spending less, saving more, and breathing like I hadn't in years. The dream still wasn't perfect. I wasn't rich, but I was grounded, stable, and peaceful. The work wasn't wasted, it was building something bigger. The dream didn't fail me, it grew me. So let me share something with you. I recall driving through a storm so heavy the windshield wipers couldn't keep up. I was coming back home from college to visit, but I wanted to pull over so bad. I wanted to quit driving so badly. But something told me to keep going. I cried, let me say that much, but eventually the rain stopped the further I kept driving. And when I looked back behind me, I saw cars still sitting in the same storm I had already made it through. You see, sometimes you're closer to the other side of the storm than you really think you are. But you have to keep moving to reach it. But if you stop in the middle of that storm, you're just prolonging your time in the midst of it. I just want to let you all know, if you're listening, that you're not crazy being tired and still chasing this dream. That's ambition, that's faith, That's hustle mode. Sweet dreams aren't fantasy, they're fuel. And if you're still dreaming, then you're still in the game. Next week, we're stepping deeper into hustle mode. We're talking about the grind before the glow up, the small checks, the side hustles, the late nights, the early mornings, and all the unpretty parts nobody brags about. Every dollar earned in those seasons wasn't just income, it was proof. Proof you weren't stuck, you were resourceful. You were building something real, you were getting it out the mud one shift at a time. Episode 2, entitled Hustlin', you don't want to miss it. Thanks for tuning into Minding My Money, where every dollar has a story and every story brings us closer to financial freedom. If you felt inspired, learned something new, or just vibe with the journey, don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment, and share it with someone who needs it. You can also catch more content and behind-the-scenes moments on YouTube and Instagram. Just search Minding My Money. Until next time, keep minding your money $1 at a time.